Welcome back to episode 97 of the Disorganized Wizard Club podcast. My name is Alex. I'm here as always with Cam.
Hey.
And for the first time ever, our friend Andrew.
Hey.
And we're a group of Ottawa-based players that play just about anything and everything we can qualify for. We talk about decks, tournament stories, just about anything to help you and ourselves get better at Magic.
So, yeah, Andrew is a good friend of ours, longtime listener of the show. And because he's been listening for such a long time, recently qualified for the Pro Tour.
In true wizard fashion.
Yeah, congratulations, Andrew.
Double true wizard fashion.
Yeah, man, congrats. You know, working really hard, qualified for the Pro Tour. How do you feel?
I feel pretty good, pretty excited, I gotta say. Not sure how hard I was working, to be honest. It was a little bit of looking at the decks that were available, finding one that fit my play style, so I didn't need to practice as much with it. And I made the decision, though, and it paid off.
Right on.
I tried to convince him not to play the deck he did, and turns out I was wrong because it worked out well for him. So we'll be talking about that later.
Well, good thing. So a lot of talk about this week. Kicking things off, this show is always sponsored by wizardtower.com, your source for Magic Single Needs. Great store here in Ottawa. This weekend they have the Player of the Year tournament. If you're qualified, if you won a Player of the Month, or any one of their 2K opens during the year, you're qualified for this Saturday, 24-player person tournament. I know I'm qualified. Cam, you're also qualified.
I'm qualified as reigning champ. I should get me like a plastic wrestling belt from like a costume store and just wear it all day.
Well, it's time to pass the belt on.
No.
It's my here. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're one of the acceptable winners. The other one's me, and that's it.
Okay.
Those are the only outcomes that I will agree to.
What's the prize for that tournament again?
It's the
like play
event
pass.
So
Yeah.
you get free constructed events for the entire year and
discounts on limited events.
Yeah.
How much would you say you got out of that over the year, Cam?
I don't know. I'd have to think it through. I don't
so
know.
much value.
So much value.
It's a very good prize.
It
And
is.
I've enjoyed all year of it.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to taking it from you this weekend. But yeah, Wizards Tower, one of the biggest patrons of the show. And speaking of patrons, we finally, at the request of many listeners, have started our own Patreon. You can find us on patreon.com/DWC Podcast. We have a few patrons already before we even announced anything on the show, so it's awesome. Thank you for your support. Wanted to shout out a couple patrons to kick things off. One of the, first guys, long time, huge supporter of our show, Trevor, who has been he's been around for a long time.
If you
Constant
remember
support.
the episode when we were stoked that we got custom sleeves, that was due to Trevor. So
Yeah.
it's really
Oh, those
appreciated,
are
man.
sweet.
Yeah, we can't really say enough how much we appreciate your support, man, and glad to have you on board. Also, I want to give a shout out to Aaron as well, another one of our patrons who have started things off here. I'll do a quick little rundown of what we've got going on. We have 3 tiers that you can join, a $1, a $5, and a $10 tier. Any tier gives you access to our DWC Patreon Discord channel, so you can get in a group chat with us, chat us up.
Yeah,
Really.
we'll be hanging out in there. Generally just posting like lists that we played at events, how it went, feedback, kind of a more casual, just more casual discussion area. Probably feel more like a group chat than messaging the DWC page, which kind of feels like emails.
Yeah. So, any tier will get you access to that. I'll talk about decks, strategies, everything, all bonus stuff that we don't talk about on the show. Also, we have a stretch goal to kick things off that will be adding basically more bonus stuff.
Do I see custom tokens to Wizard and Archmage?
If we reach that tier, we'll start adding more good stuff for patrons to get to each of our tiers, little bonuses. So look out for that. And yeah, that's about all the shill I'm going to do for today.
Nice ad spot.
Yeah, so check it out if you want to support us. Patreon.com/DWC Podcast. And yeah, so double GP weekend, GP Richmond,
GP, yeah.
GP Reed Duke, and GP Standard.
I just tuned in till day 1 of Legacy, and the first thing I see is like a Reed Duke match being commentated by Reed Duke. That's not actually what was happening. They had a pre-recorded sideboard guide he had talked about, and they were playing it while he shuffled.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not actually a time traveling wizard. He's just a most other things wizard.
That's
Yeah.
something they should actually do, because LSV's commentary is great, and I would watch him comment on his own games.
They had redo that, I think. If
He was time walk.
they
a
had a
lot of
time watch a
matches.
couple times, and he
Yeah.
came in to commentate.
Yeah, I only got to see the first 5-6 rounds of the GP, the Legacy one, and from what I saw, it was awesome. I really liked what they did following the one player. It was really cool to get his insight on his own games, his sideboarding plans, and etc. And the first match he was on camera was nuts.
Yeah.
He played against Miracles, and all 3 of those games were super tight and really exciting to watch. It was awesome.
Yeah, that was a good match. That's one to go back and rewatch.
Yeah, definitely. I'm actually looking forward to, going through and watching all that coverage again, even though I'm not really big on Legacy, but I get to watch Reduke every round, so why wouldn't I?
I think Legacy is one of those formats that benefits, well, maybe not one of, but is like probably the format that benefits the most, maybe outside of Limited, from having it commentated by a player that was playing the game, especially if you don't know Legacy, because I don't play it that often, and so I don't know the ins and outs of what people are thinking of, what they're maybe responding to, why they're tanking. And so hearing that was actually made the coverage a lot better, because many commentators, even in formats where it's pretty easy to tell what the players are thinking, won't say it.
Mm-hmm.
And so in Legacy, the first time I played Legacy, I tanked over if I should counter a brainstorm. I have no idea what's going on. So it was nice to have someone explain what they were thinking.
Man, the first time I played Legacy, I played Merfolk. So all I had to wonder was, which Merfolk can I play this turn? How many Merfolk am I attacking with? That's all I had to think about. Oh, you got a Force Will? Okay.
Go fish.
Should I daze this? Should I Force a Will this? Maybe. I don't know. It wasn't fun. I lost a lot.
Well, yeah, because you didn't know what to daze or force.
Yeah.
If you had been able to watch a tournament where a fish player told you what they were thinking of.
You're right. I can't argue with that. But the tournament was won by Cuneo playing Miracles. I thought that deck was dead. I mean, I really wish Adam was here so we could just go on a rant about Miracles right now.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, our
Missed opportunity.
resident Legacy player is,
I'm sure he'll have something to rant about next week, though.
I don't know where he was. I just
He
couldn't
does
find
love
him.
to rant. But yeah, I mean, Miracles, it didn't really go anywhere after the banning of Top. And now it just won a GP, one of the only Legacy GPs. Is there only one a year? Is that how they do it now?
No, there's definitely more than that, because this one was Legacy. There's definitely Legacy in Vegas.
Oh, yeah. Right. You're right. Yeah, there was.
Every once in a while, SCG does Legacy events. Not as many.
Yeah, I'm talking about GPs, though.
Oh,
They don't- I
SCGs
don't-
are basically GPs.
Well, I don't think they do Legacy on the SCG circuit anymore outside of their team constructed events.
I remember they made an announcement that we were going to cut it, and I
Yeah.
think they brought it back, one a year or something.
Maybe. That's possible.
Just to appease the crowd.
Pretty much all
Yeah.
their events now are modern and team constructed. So that's
rip.
what the people want.
Apparently.
I mean, as much as you don't want to say it, modern is what the people want. And it's what they love to watch.
Yeah.
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 I'm excited to play a little bit of modern this weekend.
I'm not.
Do you know what you're going to play?
Yes.
What, humans?
No.
What are you
I can't borrow humans. All the people who would lend me that deck are playing it themselves. Everybody who has that deck and is qualified is playing it.
Yeah. So this player of the year tournament's 3 rounds of standard, 3 rounds of modern, and then top 8 draft.
Yeah.
Right?
M19 draft.
Yeah. So I think it's pretty obvious that most people are going to play red black because that deck's great.
I think it's clear that red black is the safe choice, but a lot of people are qualified for this who are sort of serial limited players or they are modern players, and I don't know if right before rotation you invest in Hazarets and Chandras for one tournament.
I already got them though.
Right, but I'm saying a lot of people qualified for this tournament might want to play red black and don't. You might see a lot of blue black mid range, or because their friend is playing red black and can lend them blue black, or Fog might be around. I mean,
Yeah, it
it's
could be
also
a format warped by card availability, right?
yeah, just because these people
Maybe.
don't normally play standard, and the best decks are mostly cards that are rotating. This is a month before rotation, so
Yeah.
I'm curious. I mean, I'm just gonna play red black.
Yeah, same.
Don't care if anyone knows. Can't beat me.
We'll see
Yeah.
about that.
But
Are you willing to talk about what you're playing in Modern? I'm playing Tron.
Oh, yeah,
Everyone
that
already
one's
knows
obvious.
that.
Yeah, we knew.
Yeah.
I think the deck I have the most experience with in Modern, which is like 2 tournaments and maybe another half of one,
Green red?
is Grex's Deck Shadow.
Oh.
And it's been doing well recently, so I'm probably just going
No,
to
it hasn't.
borrow that. Yeah, it has. It put 2 copies in a top 8 like 2 weekends ago.
What top 8?
We talked about it on the podcast,
No,
didn't
we didn't.
We definitely did.
I'm calling shenanigans.
Okay, maybe we didn't talk about it, but it did put 2 copies in a top 8.
Whatever. Was it a top 8 of some side event somewhere? Probably was.
Pretty sure it was like a main GP. I don't know. Like
Nah,
what?
that deck sucks. Get out of here. Wait, you've been talking to Phil too much.
Deck's great.
Grixis Death Shadow?
Yeah, why do you think it's bad?
Oh, man, that deck's bad.
Why?
Have you ever seen it play?
Yeah.
It's garbage.
Uh,
Holy moly,
think-
that
I don't
deck's
follow.
bad.
I think it's
I'm just gonna rant about this, give no reason, so Phil's gonna yell at me.
Oh, we're just tilting Phil?
Yeah.
All right. Hi, Phil.
Anyway, so GP. Legacy GP won by Miracles.
It was won by Miracles, but I think from what I've watched of coverage, the story was that Grixis Control was quite popular
Yeah, I mean,
and that Rug Delver had taken up the Delver mantle.
yeah, so this top 8, Miracles lands, Miracles, Death Shadow, Teamer Delver, Stoneblade, Eldrazi Stompy, and Grixis Control. Holy,
That's
Joe
pretty
Lissette,
diverse meta.
top 8 in this Legacy GP was Stoneblade. I guess this deck is playable again, so it was only a matter of time.
What I don't know enough about like what changed that this deck is good now. Like, is this another one of those archetypes that was kept out by
Deathrite
Shaman,
Yeah. It was just what you were doing just wasn't good against any of the Deathrite Shaman decks. Wasn't powerful enough. But now that Deathrite Shaman's gone, you can do whatever you want again. Doesn't matter. But yeah, I think a lot of people played Death Shadow this weekend, and a lot of people played Grixis Control. Grixis Control, it's just kind of a good deck, decent matchups everywhere. Death Shadow is the new kind of sweet
the new
legacy
thing? Yeah,
deck.
like the people that played it at the Pro Tour were playing it again, right? Like Paulo and
Yeah, so I'm not surprised to see a copy of both these decks in the top 8. But one thing Grixis Control does have going in this weekend was that it had a good Death Shadow matchup. So I think it was a good choice this past weekend. But
yeah, there were games where the Death Shadow player had like a massive Death Shadow and a Gurmag Angler, but they just couldn't answer 2 opposing Baleful Strix, and so they conceded.
Yeah. Like, that entire deck is just a nightmare for you. Think about it. Like, it's just, you're not set up for success in that matchup at all.
Death Shadow's not really used to facing Death Touchers,
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I mean, you spend all this time making these huge fatties, and then you get
I mean, the deck,
stonewalled by a 1/1 deck.
yeah, in Modern,
Yeah.
it's already not good against 1/1s. Like, Lingering Souls is a challenge.
Yeah.
But in Modern, they have Teamer Battle Rage.
Mhm.
And the Legacy version is just straight blue-black, and so they probably also couldn't beat a Lingering Souls, let alone a Baleful Strix.
Yeah. But I don't really have much to say about Legacy because I don't really know what's happening. So we can move on.
Good thing it's not in the Player of the Year tournament, right?
Yeah. That would be horrible. You like, oh man. I don't even want to think about trying to get a Legacy deck.
I think that would end up being like Modern Plus versus like the one person
yeah.
with Legacy.
It would definitely be like 23 copies of blue-black, correct, like Death Shadow, that they were re-sleeving to go into the Modern portion.
But yeah, so the standard GP, we can talk about this. It's won by Red Black. Surprise, surprise. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 Red Black decks in the top 8. Two blue black decks, a white blue control, and an Esper control. This is just
It's standard as we've come to expect
it
it.
looks like every GP top 8 I've seen since the core set came out.
Yeah, M19, like, it gave a bit of hope that green decks could come back. It offered to meet green decks at the coffee shop because it was interested. But when the green deck showed up, there was no one there. Just got ghosted.
Yeah. I mean,
I think the green decks are strong in a vacuum, but they just don't line up well against.
yeah, in a
removal.
vacuum, but we don't
Yeah,
play
'cause they
we don't play
suck.
Magic in a vacuum, right? So, I mean, black red just but it's not really a discussion anymore. Far and away, best deck in Standard. Blue-black control, obviously a player. And then you have the blue-black mid-range.
Blue-black control is playing, probably without question, the strongest removal suite available in the format. It has a bunch of good removal spells. It has exile removal spells. It has cards to find the removal spells it needs.
Yeah.
And it's still losing to how hard the threats are to kill out of red-black. And green has no removal, and you expect it to compete with that?
Yeah, they're not really fighting a winning battle.
Yeah.
No.
From that side of the table. But we are starting to see all these red-black decks slowly creeping to more mid-range as the week goes on. And I think the deck that won this weekend is a really good example of that, where you have 0 copies of Soulscar Mage. All of the decks have moved from 24 lands to 25 lands. That's just kind of been what's been happening since Core Set came out.
Yeah.
And now we're starting to see more and more of these decks kind of jam up their 4-drops, add a little bit more removal, cutting out the 1-drop. Soulscar Mage completely gone out of this deck. And, not only did this guy take this strategy, but also Seth Manfield took it a step further.
Yeah.
Main deck Karn.
Main deck Karns, 0 Soulscar Mage, 0 Hazarets, whole bunch of removal spells, playing Vraska's Contempt in the main deck, and 26 lands.
Yeah, to get in the extra black sources.
Yeah, 3 Cinder Barons and an extra Swamp.
3 Magma Spray too.
Yeah.
Yeah, this isn't, we were talking about this a bit before the podcast. It's not entirely new, this idea. During Pro Tour Dominaria,
Yeah.
there was kind of a spread of red-black, and we had talked about which version did best, and it was sort of the theme on coverage during that Pro Tour, because there was mono red all the way up to Cinder Baron, Vraska's Contempt, May, and red-black. Those slower versions fell out of favor in the last couple months. Oh yeah, we haven't seen them in a while, but I guess if you're expecting to play against this much red-black, which also coverage was saying that it was an extremely popular deck and 4 copies in top 8 kind of confirms that. But it makes sense to sort of bring this back.
Well, I mean, every GP, GP's metagame that we've seen in Standard for the past month and a half, red-black usually sits around 40, 45% of the metagame, I think, if I'm remembering this correctly. So, a lot of people are playing it. The majority of players believe it's the best deck. So, I mean, if you're expecting to play 40% of your matches against the mirror match, I think it's pretty safe choice to kind of find edges where you can in the mirror match.
Well, yeah, that's the obvious thinking. It's interesting here, though, because these 2 decks that we just mentioned, the one that took first and Seth Manfield's, they sort of approached this in different ways, which is sort of the same thing that was happening back in Pro Tour Dominaria. One of them added more black and went slower and is playing Magma Sprays for 1-drops and is playing Vraska's Contempts. The other one just kind of gave up on trying to answer some of the harder to deal with threats in the mirror.
I.e. Hazaret.
Playing 0 Soulscar leaves this deck with actual 0 ways to get a Hazaret off the board.
Yeah, the only way he can answer Hazaret is 3 Doomfalls post-board. That's it.
And so, I don't know. It's interesting which way you want to take that. Whether you want to try and be the aggressor in the matchup and just ignore their Hazarets, put them in a position where whatever you have can kill them before it does too much damage.
Yeah.
Or whether you want to try and answer everything.
Well, in these black-red decks, the Hazarets are not attacking on turn 4, maybe not turn 5 either, right? So if you sense a Hazaret, you can begin to pivot, right? You can place the emphasis on
you can become more aggressive. Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Although there was a match on coverage where the guy just he slammed Hazard on turn 4 and then discarded a card and then discarded a card and then his turn 6 was discard 2 cards attack. And at that point his graveyard was 1 Chainlure, which just died, 4 lands, 6 lands in play and a Hazard. He drew 2 cards that game and just crumpled his opponent.
Man, that's just the story of Hazaret.
10 lands Hazaret, easy game. Snap keep.
That's just the way the cookie crumbles when you have
that is a god.
Really powerful cards.
That is the second god.
At the same time, though, it was against Seth Manfield, I believe, unless I'm misremembering. And Seth was stuck on 3 lands for a while. And so he couldn't, deploy enough things in order to race back. Whereas if he had, the lack of removal spells in that hand probably makes that Hazaret not good enough because it didn't actually do anything until turn 6. So
Yeah.
it's
True.
a funny game, not necessarily informative.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, beyond black red though, that blue black mid range deck has really been putting up good results for the past, I would say, month. You know, we saw it win an SCG event. It's been top 8ing GPs left and right. I mean, just what was it? The last standard GP we had, it was GPLA, GP Providence. GPLA won by red black, blue black second place. Exact same thing this time around.
Yep.
Not really surprised. The deck's good. And the deck, obviously, you can have a good red-black matchup. It's kind of built now. I mean, you still have cards like Glint Sleeve Siphoner, which are kind of crappy versus red-black game 1, but these are they're auto swap-outs for the post-board games. And everyone has kind of realized that Bloodfast is absolutely nuts.
I mean, I wouldn't say everyone. Coverage, still, even I was watching this GP and someone played a Bloodfast against red and they're like, well, this one's looking kind of silly here.
It's like one of your best cards in the matchup, and I can't believe they don't
So in Coverage's defense, they said, well, this one's looking kind of silly here, but I guess we've seen it be all right recently. So maybe they're learning.
Yeah.
And yeah, they won that game. It flipped and then gained a bunch of life.
Yeah.
Yeah. How many cards did it draw? Millions, probably.
0. Well, you're getting attacked by it was against Wizards.
Oh.
Mono red Wizards, and so they just got attacked down to 4 and then flipped it, and then it kept them alive. It countered a bunch of burn spells.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's the kind of card it drew.
That's true. A bunch of counter spells.
Yeah, I mean, all these decks are looking very similar. Core is pretty much the same. 3 Scarab God, 2 Gear Hulk, a Liliana. You got Champion, Glint Sleeve.
More hostage takers now than there was.
Yeah, well, I've seen all lists kind of floating between 1 and 2. That's just kind of been the standard number.
The fungal infection in the sideboard is kind of the new tech.
That's a nod to Wizards.
Yeah.
Good against Bomat too.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's definitely kind of a nod to Wizards. And more essence extractions. I've seen a couple lists that are playing 1 essence extraction and 1 something or other. But these have a couple more just to fight these aggressive decks.
Yeah. Yeah. These decks have kind of moved away from Yahenni's expertise as an answer. But I think that's okay.
Everyone's moving away from sweepers.
Yeah.
They were never that good against red-black or Mardu vehicles because...
Vehicles.
Yeah, because of vehicles and planeswalkers. They just didn't answer the most problematic things.
Yeah.
And each threat is so threatening that you have to deal with it solo or they can just ride it.
Yeah, that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But, I mean, blue-white, Esper, these decks have kind of been floating around top 8s too as well.
Winning you pull up this blue-white list? Why not just play Esper? I thought everyone gave up on this deck finally, but...
No. It's still good.
No, it was never good. Teferi is good,
Teferi is
but
good.
blue-white was never better than Esper.
I mean, something can be said about more of your lands coming into play untapped.
Being able to play History Benalia though the board?
I stumble on mana less.
Slightly less. I don't think it warrants trying to play with only blue and white cards.
Yeah,
I've never thought... Anyway, it's always been my personal opinion, but...
I mean, let's not forget that the guy who played this deck is Oliver Chu. He's a very, very good player.
Yeah.
I mean, very good players find ways to win.
Right. I'm struggling to see why you would pick... we were just talking about how cards I guess Settle the Wreckage does answer vehicles, but it doesn't answer planeswalkers. And we just talked about how, these types of wrath effects sometimes leave behind the strongest threat. Anybody who, at this point in the format, good players will know how to play around Settle. They won't send their Scarab God in. They can't send in their planeswalkers. So, why wouldn't you just play a deck with Contempt? I don't understand.
I don't know. He has a sideboard plan for decks that are going more mid-rangey with planeswalkers. He's playing 4 History Benalia, and even the Walking Bliss does allow you to pressure planeswalkers.
I guess you have Cast Out is kind of the Contempt spot, but
he has a plan. It probably worked.
Maybe in his testing he found that this was one of the few people who was worried about mono red Wizards, as we'll talk about later, and maybe he found that Settle the Wreckage was better there than Contempt.
Yeah, it's very possible. I mean,
because this is something you were saying, right, Andrew? Is that you kind of want a sweeper against Wizards, and trying to 1-for-1 them, you can't be mana efficient enough.
True. You do want to sweep them. You need to basically stop taking damage from all these 1 and 2 drops while you're answering their 2 and 3 drops, right? But Settle the Wreckage is not really the sweeper that you want against mono red wizards.
Why?
I mean, because they only have like 9 more lands in their deck to take out. You know, if they are high on mana and just drawing gas, then like Flame of Keld starts to and they start to like be able to flash back Earthshaker Kenra, right? It gives them a resource they otherwise are never going to have.
Yeah, but on the same time, it might be sort of the best of a bunch of bad options. Because if you need to sweep them, I do think it's wrong to try and play Sorcery Speed Sweeper against that deck because of things like On-Crop Crasher and Earthshaker Kenra. Like, they have so many haste threats that Sorcery Speed removal, or Sorcery Speed Sweepers usually just gets the worst cards. And so you probably want something that you can get those haste threats with the turn they're played.
Yeah.
And so then your options are, Fiery Cannonade or Settle?
Yeah, I think Settle's totally fine, but I mean, it's still very easy to play around, and
yeah,
it's not. I mean,
I think the blue-black mid-range is better against wizards than this list because this list has no way of gaining life. It has no way of closing the game quickly, right?
I would have to agree with you there. I just think blue-black mid-range is better as a whole.
Then I go back to my previous state of, why would you ever play blue-white?
Teferi, man.
Right, but you can play 4 Teferi and Esper.
You could, but less of your lands come into play untapped.
It doesn't matter. Teferi untaps them.
There are reasons.
Sure. There's reasons for anything.
I don't know if they're good ones. I'm just saying they're reasons. I don't know. Scoreboard, man.
What do you mean scoreboard? 1 copy top 8 at 1
Yeah,
event, and then no one's been playing it for months?
Well, no. Blue-White Approach won a GP a few weeks ago.
That's an entirely different deck. That's a combo deck.
Okay, so if there's Approach in this deck, then it's totally different discussion.
Then, I don't know, I could maybe... I just don't...
Well, why not just play Esper Approach then? I don't know why would they ever
I don't
just
know.
play
I don't know why
Blue-White?
people haven't got there.
All right. I digress. Let's talk a little bit about Standard. Let's talk a little bit about this RPTQ, actually.
And we just sort of deferred to you when talking about Mono Red Wizards. Did we say that is what you won your RPTQ with?
Yeah, I think we may have missed that. So I won it with Mono Red Wizards, pretty close to the list that won GP Prague a little while ago. And yeah, I had 6 matches against Red Black, 1 match against Esper Control, won all of them. And I have to say I felt very favored against Red Black. Well, not very favored, maybe 60%, 65% in that range. Just because the variants of Red Black that I was playing against did seem a little inbred to me. They were playing all of these value cards. I played against the main deck Karn, which was not good for my opponent.
Oh man, that seems so bad against Mono Red Wizards.
Yeah, the construct it made to try and defend himself was 1/1 and was swept up by Chain Whirler, and he lost immediately.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. So I think I mentioned this on the podcast that I played 2 matches against Mono Red Wizards, and I had the opposite impression. The matchup seemed pretty easy for me. I had a bunch of removal post board, and as Red Black, I kind of just rolled over my opponent 4-0 in games. Which apparently seems to have been the wrong impression. That could have just been an anomaly. From my point of view, it seemed like Red Black was a deck that was just a step slower and would have, it wouldn't need to save its removal to go face to close the game, so it could use its removal more liberally, and so it would get ahead, and then Wizards' inability to deal with a Glorybringer or a Phoenix or a Chandra would sort of let Red Black run away once they've stabilized. But it seems that I thought about this wrong, and actually sort of the mana efficiency of Mono Red Wizards' early turns, where they'll have 3/1 drops pretty early, gets under Red Black.
Yeah, GP Providence, sorry. This is definitely a discussion that Cam and I had been having up until the RPTQ, where
I kept telling you not to play the deck.
where the night before I insisted finally, and we jammed a bunch of games, got in a last bit of testing, and I came to the conclusion that it's, even if it wasn't favored, it was my play style, and so I needed to stick with that. But yeah, the impression I got during the RPTQ was that I was able to push red black around and sort of negate this mid-rangey advantage that they were getting. That their cards, although high quality, weren't high quality in the way that allowed them to stabilize. And they just have too many cards that don't block. If they have Scrappy Scrounger on 2, I'm fine with that because they're not going to kill me before I kill them, right? If they have Heart of Kirin, then I just kill whatever they were going to crew it with on their end step, and I get in for free, right? There's so many cards that just don't interact well with being attacked. And if they have like Chandra, and they need to use it to kill one of my things, then a Chain Whirler kills it, or a Pyromancer kills it, or a Shock kills it, right?
I thought Pyromancer can't be redirected anymore.
It can be redirected. It says Planeswalker on the card.
Thank you, new formatting.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
This card just keeps getting better and better.
Huh.
Yeah. That is probably, like,
That is, yeah.
being able to hit a Planeswalker is, like, that's no small effect. Like, I wish my unlicensed disintegrations could still hit Planeswalkers.
Yeah, that was a painful nerf to have
Yeah.
to start playing with.
Yeah. Even the Chandras can't hit Planeswalkers anymore.
Getting a Liliana off of a Chandra always felt really good.
Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I mean, so how different did your deck vary from the list that won GP Providence?
So I played one fewer insult to injury, and I played Kerry Zev's Expertise.
Okay.
Just one?
Yeah.
Ever bring it in?
No. I in fact didn't bring in a lot of the sideboard. It was sort of just, it was designed with green in mind, but green did not do well there. I was able to do an ID on round 5, and so I was able to sort of scope the room, and I took notes on everyone who was in top 8 contention, and there were 4 decks that were not red-black. They were 1 Godpharaoh's Gift, 1 Brew, actually, red-white aggro, and then there was 2 control decks. Or sorry, not red-black or blue-black. Those were
Just
every other
the 2
deck.
meta decks. Yeah. That's about what I expected.
Mm-hmm. So you really found you were just able to bully red-black all day, and
Yeah, it's because they were always on the back foot, and their cards don't block well. Like, if I'm attacking with my 2 1-drops, and if they have a Soul Scar Mage, do they block? Because I can, at instant speed, make them lose their, like, they just get a block, essentially. If I have something else, then it just doesn't, it's not a good look. If they have, if they like play their Phoenix on 4, and I Wizard's Lightning it on their end step and like untap Chain Whirler, then it didn't do anything. It didn't have an effect. Their Chain Whirler, if I play just my 1-drops out first, the only one that gets got by Chain Whirler is Bomat Courier, right?
Yeah.
And they have to play their Chain Whirler on 3 because it's really one of their only blockers.
Yeah.
Right? Kerry Zev doesn't even kill anything, Kerry Zev doesn't kill any of my 1-drops except for Bomat Courier. There's those, the Wizards do a very good job of beating up on red-black.
Oh, aside from like Viashino Pyromancer, but it has an advantage of already having dealt damage when it comes into play. So, if you're pushing damage, it's okay if it gets stonewalled. It's already had an effect.
Yeah.
I think what you touched on there with Wizard's Lightning is actually like a pretty big point in that you can answer their 4-mana play, their Phoenix sort of answer it with 1 mana.
Yeah.
And you will, like, the various mana costs of the creatures and removal spells out of red-black means that they are a 1 spell per turn deck until about turn 5. they can't both deploy a creature and deploy a removal spell. So they're forced to choose in all of those first turns, whereas you get to do both, sometimes starting on turn 2. Because all of these scenarios that you just mentioned, you said it's good because you can always end step kill their thing, which I thought at first it sounded ambitious, but when your creatures cost 1 or 2 and your removal spell costs 1, that's very reasonable.
Yeah, I had, there was one game where my opening was Soulscar Mage. Then my opponent carries out. I bolted it, played another wizard, and got in for 2. Then their turn 3 was Chain Whirler, killed nothing. I untap and I attack with my 2 wizards because I have a shock in hand, right? He blocks, it's a 1/1 first strike. He's tapped out. He can't block. He knows this. He knows that it is his best blocker, right? And he needs to untap with it so that he can kill something. So he can kill the Soulscar Mage and prevent it from being, shrunk. Because if I'm attacking like that, I only have shock, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I mean, like we've mentioned this already. All these red blacks, getting more and more mid range.
That doesn't help either, yeah.
Attack each other is really leaving themselves weak to this strategy. And I mentioned this a little bit before we started recording, but red black really never adjusted to mono red wizards being a part of the metagame at all. It's just not a deck they ever would sideboard for intentionally. Like when red black first kind of became a huge player in the metagame, pretty much every sideboard you saw was playing a card like Sweltering Suns to respect more low to the ground aggressive decks. And as we've gone farther and farther into this format, that card has entirely disappeared and nobody plays it anymore.
Like, yeah, when they were playing Sweltering Suns, just straight mono red was still around. Mono red has the red, the one that won all the Pro Tours.
Yeah.
And so it made sense that you would want those sweepers because, it was a mono red deck. It was trying to get in with its creatures multiple times. And then that deck fell out of favor. And so people lost these Sweltering Suns. And then, it seems like when Wizards did well at Providence and kind of started coming back into the meta, because this deck was brewed pretty shortly after this, Flame of Keld was spoiled. Well, after Viashino Pyromancer was spoiled. People were playing this deck, and then it sort of disappeared for a while, and then it came back. And nobody really adapted. They all did the same thing I did. I kind of dismissed it as it's a Flame of Keld deck. It'll get lucky in top 8. Small GP, a lot of people trying it, whatever. I kind of dismissed it. Didn't change my list, didn't change sideboard for any of it. And that probably caused a lot of red-black players to lose to it.
Yeah. I mean, when you don't respect it as a player and you're not preparing for it, a deck like this that's so low to the ground and so efficient with its cards and its mana is going to take advantage of you just playing, like you said, 1 spell per turn. They're just doing more things, being more efficient, and then having a card like Flame of Keld allows you to just get over that last big threat that's supposed to stabilize you, and it just ends up not because those extra damage, those extra cards you got from Flame of Keld pushes you over the edge.
I blame the fact that Thraben Inspector hasn't been in Standard for long enough, and so I just have reverted to underestimating commons.
Yeah, that's.
I see Give to Lava Runner and I see Viashino Pyromancer, and I think I can beat a draft deck.
So you smashed this tournament. What did you play against in your Pro Tour qualifying final there?
So the final was against a red black player who was also my round 6 opponent. So I was able to play for position against him safely. And he was the one who had his Karn on for main deck.
Okay.
So he
4 main deck Karns?
No, sorry.
He was the one who played the Karn
on turn 4. Okay.
Yeah, and then died.
Yeah. But it was definitely slower, built to be predatory. He even explained his logic and what he knew. He was 8th, and he knew that I was 1st well before the pairings were announced, and he felt miserable, right? He had 4 Phoenix as well. He had just gone so big that his interaction in the first 4 turns was
minimal. Yeah.
Well, because you said you got to walk around during your round 5 ID. Was he wrong? How many other mono red Wizards players did you see?
It was most of them. It was, I think it was It was definitely over 40%. It was probably a good 60%.
Oh, you're talking about red. He said.
No, so how many
Oh,
wizards?
mono
how many
red
wizards?
wizards?
How many
Sorry.
wizards players? Did
There
you
was
see?
one.
Just you?
There was one other
Okay.
in the tournament.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and he lost round 5. He lost it against blue-black mid-range, which I thought was actually the deck that had a good matchup against mono red wizards, which was sort of the converse of what we were thinking originally.
Yeah.
And that's because it has a way to get out of the red zone, right? It has it can start sacrificing its own Scarab God or whatever it reanimated.
Yeah, Scarab God is kind of a brick wall for the
Yeah.
mono red wizards deck, and when it's combined with something like Bloodfast, allowing you just continuously gain 5 life a turn. Also, blue black has the advantage of having very cheap interaction in Fatal Push,
Yeah.
whereas red black mid range isn't playing much 1 mana interaction. It's not in main deck. Sideboard, you'll see a few copies of Magma Spray, usually 2 to 3, but that's it. And then.
The Chandra's defeats as well, but
Yeah, but
so-
but blue black has that advantage game 1.
game 1, yeah.
They have the 4 push. They have cheaper cards like Essence Scatter that can it can pick up an On-Crop Crasher or a Goblin Chain Whirler.
Yeah, it's also Vraska's Contempt,
Yeah.
because Vraska's Contempt, even though it's a 4 mana spell, it does gain them life, but it also prevents me from boarding into Hazoret, which is the deck's game plan. It adds a mountain and it adds 3 Hazoret against red-black, which they don't have a way to deal with. If you know they have Soulscar Mage, then you can hold up removal for it. You can save their card, or even deploy your Hazoret on turn 5 if you have the luxury. But against blue-black, you can't bring Hazoret in because they're going to get it with Vraska's Contempt, and they're going to trade even on mana, and you're going to fail your game plan.
Okay. Yeah. It is interesting though, because before there was a lot of blue black decks that were playing Yahenni's Expertise, and I mean, in that little time period, I think they really were favored against mono red wizards with that kind of sideboard plan. Now, going kind of most decks moving away from that plan, but like you said, I do think Contempt goes a long way, and all their cheap interaction really sets them up well.
Yeah, Essence Extraction out of the board is also big. I think,
Yeah.
because that was the matchup we tested a bunch the night before Andrew played his RPTQ, and I think game 1 is still pretty bad for blue black.
Yeah.
I lost most of them.
Yeah, I don't think
But
it's
yeah, that you
particularly
get to
good,
sideboard into Essence Extractions, and really it's just Essence Extraction. You just need a couple more things to bridge the gap, because the games where you were able to Contempt something, like a 2 or 3 drop, and they only had 1, maybe 2 1-drops, you were able to gain enough life that your Scarab God can take over. Whereas the games where you don't have that little bit of a life buffer, you die the turn you play Scarab God.
Yeah.
So that really felt like the difference. And having the extra copies of those cards shores up that matchup a lot post board. So
So yeah, I really think made a good choice for the if you had known going in the tournament that you're going to play against all these red black decks. I mean, playing mono red wizards isn't really a bad choice at all, because I mean your favorite game 1, and with none of these decks packing sideboard efficient, good enough sideboard hate for you, you're still going to be favored game 2. Whereas blue black, you're favored game 1, but after games 2 and 3, I really think it's more heavily favored for blue black.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a good choice. It paid off.
Yeah. I wouldn't say it's unwinnable for mono red wizards after sideboard for blue black either.
No, it's definitely not unwinnable, but I think
it's blue black favorite, I would say.
It
Yeah, for
shifts
sure.
a lot. The advantage bar shifts way in the direction of blue black mid range for sure, I'd say. Yeah. But
How much damage did you do in 1 turn with Flame of Keld?
Let's see. It was I had I think 2 1-drops on the board, and I drew into Earthshaker Kenra, Bombat Courier, and Shock. So I was able to clear blockers, and it was 5, 9, 13, 14 damage. Oh, but I did get to Bonfire the Damned someone for 3.
Banefire? Oh, Bonfire.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Chain Whirler.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It was a red-black player, and he had a Chain Whirler of his own. He had a Rekindling Phoenix. He had a Chandra, and he had, I think that was it. And he had himself, too. So the Chain Whirler got to deal only 12 damage.
Man.
Whew.
Nice. Bonfire the Dam. That was a good Magic card. And you only had to play 3 mana for it. You got a 3/3 as well.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Man.
That's crazy.
But
Too good, please ban.
I did have to Miracle it off the top of my deck.
Oh, nice. Oh.
So it looks like Miracles won 2 tournaments this weekend.
So which Pro Tour are you qualified for now?
Guilds of Ravnica.
Guilds of Ravnica.
Middle of November.
Oh, man. You must
In
be stoked.
Atlanta. Yeah.
In Atlanta.
I am excited to practice a ton of a Ravnica draft format because I've never gotten to draft Ravnica before.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And
I
I've
didn't-
heard really good things.
I never drafted OG Ravnica, but
Yeah, me neither.
Return to Ravnica was very good. I really did enjoy that format. I'm stoked for this new Ravnica set.
Yeah. Have you guys seen the spoilers?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I've looked through the
Shock
there's
man,
like 10 that
Shock
came out.
Lance confirmed, dude. Man, did you guys play during? Well, you didn't, but
No.
did
I
you
actually
play-
played during both Ravnicas because the original Ravnica was like when I stopped playing as a kid. And then the new Ravnica was when I like just picked it back up.
Okay, so standard with Shock lands and check lands is probably the best standard I've ever played. Man is perfect always. It's so fantastic. Man, I'm so excited.
I
to
bet
have both.
people will still find a way to tell me that blue-white is better than Esper.
Just wait till they reprint Sphinx's Revelation.
Oh man. Yeah. Gonna have to wait a few more months for that.
Oh, yeah, because we don't get Azorius. We get...
No.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, is it Boros, Skolgari, Selesnya, and what's that last one?
Which color combo did we miss? Dimir?
Demir. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
fitting that you forgot them.
Yeah, it was totally intentional. But yeah, I'm still. When I saw the Shocklands get previewed, I was like, "This is gonna be great." I'm so stoked to play as much standard as I possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
So mana being good is just the best.
Yeah.
That's gonna be
The guild mechanics too have been spoiled. So it's Mentor, Surveil, Undergrowth, Jumpstart, and Convoke.
Yeah,
The one of the red ones that's spoiled is Goblin Rabble Master, but with Mentor instead
I
of
saw
Pile
that.
Driver.
man,
effect.
I wasn't excited. I didn't understand why no one was excited about that card in our just like friends group chat. No one mentioned anything
Because
about
there's a counterspell with Surveil, and that's way more height.
just strictly
Bring back
better.
Dissolve.
Dissolve
Yeah.
with upside.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, Surveil does seem like a sweet mechanic, and I'm really interested to see what kind of cards it goes on. Like the it's the 2 mana Thoughtseize with Surveil.
I don't think that card's going to be good.
You don't?
Really?
It costs a blue and a black. It puts it into the graveyard, and we've already seen mechanics that benefit off having things in the graveyard.
Yeah, but
you
you
have
get-
to be playing blue-black. There has to be a matchup that's common where a 2-mana Thoughtseize is worthwhile. It doesn't even exile. Like, it's not like, what was that colorless one?
Transgress.
Transgress the Mind.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I think that card's too slow.
I think it's decent.
The thing is,
Just
like
play
the
Duress.
conditional 2 mana, this one's unconditional. It doesn't have those restrictions like duress or whatever.
Yeah, I'm saying that unconditional discard is not good. Like 2-mana unconditional discard is not good enough. 2-mana
But you
somewhat
also get to
conditional
look
exile is fine.
you also get to look at the top card of your
Yeah.
library, Cam.
Right,
And maybe
so I
put
could
it in
try
your
and find a
graveyard.
card good enough to dig me out of the hole I put myself in by casting this. I could have
Yeah,
just
well,
drawn
yeah.
a good card and had 2 mana up.
I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like
I don't know
it's
what you
not
want.
going to replace duress.
Well, let me tell you.
This is something that Reed Duke was talking about on coverage earlier. That like, because we saw a turn where someone could have cast a Doomfall. It would have been an all right turn. They had 4 mana. They could have Doomfalled and activated Bomat to draw a bunch of cards.
Mhm.
But instead they waited, preferring to, if they were going to Doomfall away a Scarab God, because at that point Scarab God was about the only thing they would take, make the opponent put mana into it first. Like, the more mana a hand disruption spell costs, the further behind you are tempo-wise, because they didn't have to spend mana on that card. And I think 2 for this effect is a bit too much.
I think 2 is kind of the sweet spot. 3, I think
If it
3
was-
is too much.
If it was 1 and a black, maybe. But blue-black?
Keep in mind we're heading into
It's
much
perfect
better
mana.
fixing.
Perfect mana.
Right, I'm just saying that makes it less likely to be played because like you need a blue-black. It needs to have matchups where it wants to cast this. It needs... And it has to justify it over duress.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see.
I think the threats are going to be diverse enough. Like, there's creatures that you're going to want to deal with not on the battlefield.
Really? They're all rotating.
Rekindling Phoenix.
Okay, that one's not.
Nicol Bolas.
But you still have Contempt.
Yeah, Nicol Bolas.
Man, that card's going to be so good.
You want to discard that before he discards you.
Yeah, you just use the new counter
And think
spell.
about it.
Then you surveil off
Then
that.
you get to put the top card of your library into your graveyard.
would
so
I
your
spend-
search for Azcanta gets to flip
Why would I
earlier.
spend 2 mana putting their card in the graveyard for them without them spending any mana when I can just counter it to the same effect?
Why not both? Why not counter the next thing?
Because
He's going to top
what do you
deck
mean, why
another
not
one.
both? I can't cast Hand Disruption and
You
hold
know
up
how
counter spells.
Thoughtseize works. You take their card and then they draw it immediately. The next
Thoughtseize
copy.
would probably be unplayable if it cost 2.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if I'm losing
And this is
2
worse
life.
than a 2-mana Thoughtseize.
Is it?
Yes, because it costs 2 colors.
Yeah, but mana's perfect.
Yeah, okay.
It's not worse than a 2-mana Thoughtseize. It's so much better than 2-mana Thoughtseize.
Okay, it is, well, it's close.
It's so much better.
It is
It's literally so much better.
not more playable than a 2-mana Thoughtseize.
It's much more playable than a 2-mana Thoughtseize.
All right, we'll see.
You guys should make a bet right
Man,
now.
I can't
I
wait.
guess
to
you're
be right.
the split vote or the deciding.
No, I'm definitely, I think it's going to be played.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think it's going to be a 4 of in the main or anything like that, but it's going to be played. It's not Thoughtseize.
Can't wait
But
for
you
to
don't
eat your
have to
words,
be
Cam.
Thoughtseize to be played.
Yeah, but you do have to be good to be played.
Well,
Well,
As there's a big picture of Pyromancer on screen. Biashino Pyromancer.
all right. So, anything else you guys want to talk about?
Yeah, we kind of went through. I don't know any other like cool things from the RPTQ, or maybe
it was actually. So it was this brew that I spotted in round 5 that was still in contention. It had a lot of pieces that are surviving rotation, and it looked pretty powerful as I watched it play. It was red-white aggro, and it was basically mono-white, but splashing red for heroic reinforcements, which sounds bad, but then you see it with Banalish Marshal, and you realize that it's everything is getting +2/+2 for there, right? So it's all of a sudden attacking for 11 damage. And there's, History of Benalia with heroic reinforcements gives things +1/+1 and haste. It had a lot of synergies, and it just a lot of 3-4 punches that just could end the game on their own.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and it otherwise played a bunch of standard aggressive creatures kind of thing. And I think it's also going to be getting that new Rabble Master. I think it's something that I at least am interested in trying as like a very strong proactive strategy for week 1 of the new standard. And History of Benalia is cheap right now.
Is it actually?
How cheap we talking?
I can't remember, but I've noticed it's like at a low.
Well, if you need to get your history of Benalias, make sure to check out wizardtower.com. Great sponsor of this podcast. We can wrap this up.
Okay.
All right. Thank you all for joining the club this week. Make sure, as always, you check out wizardtower.com for all your Magic single needs. Get those history Benalias while they're still cheap. If you want to get in contact with us, you can find us on Facebook at the Disorganized Wizards Club Podcast or on Patreon now, patreon.com/DWC Podcast. And you can also find us on Twitter at DWC Podcast 1. And however you listen to this podcast, whether it's on Podbean, iTunes, any podcast app, leave us a review, share it with your friends, rate the podcast. Everything helps keep this thing growing, bring it to New Year's. Hey, BJ, thanks for joining us this week.
Yeah, thanks again.
It was
Thanks
fun.
for having me.
Good luck on the Pro Tour.
Thanks.
We'll have to have you back
We'll have you
for
back.
another episode when you win the Pro Tour.
Yeah, of course. Naturally.
You have to play Wizards, though.
Yeah, how much of that deck rotates?
You lose the Soul Scar Mage, which is a shame and a half, but and the Earthshaker Kenra. Strike,
On
Shock.
crop goes. Shock's still in standard.
Yeah.
Oh, is
Mountain's
Shock
still in standard.
Strike is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you lose some sideboard cards.
Still good enough.
You lose your entire sideboard, except the mountain. Actually, all of it.
Although
There'll be more cards.
with blue-red, check lands, shock lands, and Adelies, Cinderwind,
There are still good wizards.
there
that you
are
can
still
play.
good wizards.
Yeah. And that was a deck at the start of the format too. Blue-red wizards.
Jim Davis did a good stream on it.
Yeah, it was another limited deck, just like this one.
Yeah.
The original one played Spellweaver Eternal.
I forgot that thing was a wizard.
Oh, man.
Oh,
Also rotating, though.
Rip that card.
oh damn, we're not going to be able to play Spellweaver Eternal.
Man, that
That's
card
the
is
real
great.
shame.
All right. We got a blowout too, eh?
Yeah, more of like
Sort
a
of.
funny situation.
Yeah.
Not so much of a blowout because I think, well, it was just one person messing up, but
Well, I do love hearing about people messing
people
up.
messing
so
up, yeah.
Let's talk about it.
So our friend Curtis was just sending us it's just a screenshot of like the event history from Moto,
Mhm.
where he was playing a draft, and it's like his opponent casts Macabre Waltz, picks up like 2 good creatures. It was like a Skymarch Bloodletter and something else, discards a swamp, and then Curtis puts Fell Spectre's trigger on the stack, which is whenever your opponent discards a card, they lose 2 life.
Mhm.
And his opponent was at 2. Just forgot that Macabre Waltz would trigger it and just confidently cast it.
And died.
It was a real Macabre Waltz.
That's commitment to value.
All right. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you all next week.